You for accessing this video. This is the FY23 Grow Your Own or GYO grant closeout, and we've got some best practices and some technical assistance for you. So just quick introduction. My name is Phil Chase. I'm here with Jenny Dickens. Jenny, if you want to say hello.
Absolutely. Hi, I'm Jenny Dickens. I'm the Grow Your Own consultant. I oversee Grow Your Own grants like this one.
Right. And I'm a contractor that works in this grant and many others. You've probably seen me in some other technical assistance videos. I feel like Troy McClure up here. But we're both from the Office of Educator Excellence in the Michigan Department of Education. And again, we're glad that you have accessed this video because it means that you are preparing for all of the things you need to prepare for closing out this grant and sort of, as you will, land the plane, as I keep saying. So let's go on to what we're going to take care of today. So in this video, we are going to be giving you a little bit of background about how we got here. We want you to understand first of all, what sunset guidance is. And then we have some slides and some presentations around 5 core principles that we felt were important to us to lead with. And you can actually see them listed there. We're going to talk about candidates coming first and why that's important. We're going to talk about things that are financial, like you're probably wondering about how to close up the books. Well, we're going to ask you to leave nothing financial to chance, and we're going to tell you exactly what that means. We're going to have planned now for final reporting. I can tell you at the time of this video being recorded, we do have some new instructions on the final expenditure report, and we felt it was important to put that out as soon as we possibly can because, again, you're going to be planning for that final reporting. We're going to be offering a special hotline and some office hours. We're talking about that. That's the Ask the GYO Team section. And then we're going to reflect on some lessons learned because it is important. We have all worked very hard in this grant, our team and your team, and we want you to get the most out of that, out of your experience. And then, of course, we're going to finalize with some wrap up and next steps. Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and present the sort of the welcome and the background on sunset guidance. So this slide and the next kind of give you an idea of how we got from where we were to here. So back in September 29, 2025, Jenny and I put out a video where we were having some initial thoughts about what's on the horizon. We actually rolled out the idea of sunset guidance at that time. And so we're sunsetting the grant. And so we knew that we were already having questions, people looking forward. We talked about allowable costs. We talked about the grant closure timeline. We talked about what reporting updates are next. But one of the things that we have also wanted to present, and we're going to present again today in this video, is how to support your grant candidates at the end of the grant and even beyond. And then what are some ways you can spend down your funds and kind of get ready for that, again, that final expenditure report. So we did a couple of, in November and January, we did a couple of rounds of office hours, and those are always very good because we get folks, one of 2 groups up here. We have people that have burning questions, and we have other people that want to listen to other people's burning questions. And no matter how it works out, it always works out well because people learn from each other. So you'll see this in the next slide, but we're going to offer some more office hours coming up too. And then we talked about, in February, we had an update about the prepayment idea, or what we call it at the time, we called it a payment for continuous services. Just as a reminder, at the time that you're accessing this video, we do have some new guidance on the website. I'm going to show the QR code for the website in just a moment. We do some new guidance that talks about the allowability of what's called seat purchases. So we're going to get into that in a little bit, but I want to let you know that that's important to understand that was a context for some of the questions that came up. And then in the middle of that, we also started understanding about how much money would likely be unspent. And so we sent out the first of 2 checks for underspending. So now we're here. Here's the newest developments. We're happily here, my friends. And we have this change of expenditure deadline that occurred in May, earlier in last month. And you can imagine we kind of did some fancy footwork to try to get this information out. So the expenditure deadline got moved up by the U.S. Treasury. And it results in us having to, fortunately, not move the date of your final expenditure report, but we do have to have a liquidation hard close on September 30th, 2026. Again, we're going to get into more details later in the video, but at least you heard it here first, right? And again, the guidance is up on our website. The QR code there, if you click on that QR code while you're watching this video from your phone, you can go right to the website. And we do that because sometimes people they want to follow along, and they want to click on something, stop the video, click on it, read it. Most people have seen it, but you never know. But then we had the seat purchase agreement update, which is where we are telling people that, in fact, there is a way to allow people to pre-purchase seats. Again, I'm not going to go into it right now. We'll go into it a little bit in this video, but the guidance is out there. Again, use that QR code to access the website. Our guidance is out there. So what you're going to see next, if it's not already out there, in fact, I think it is, there's an updated monitoring guidance document that's available that reflects the first two changes that I noted on this slide here. And then also on the website are the new office hours, the Zoom registration links for new office hours. We have two sets, right, of two 90-minute sessions, two for EPP staff at your college, universities, and your alternate programs with whom you've been working, because they might have specialized questions. And then we have two for grantees. So you might be accessing this video later than that. Do not worry, we have other ways you can get in touch with us if you have burning questions for Closeout, but at least I can tell you right now, if you go to the website, you should see the registration links. And we, of course, have some new FAQ updates, as well as we're updating the website. Actually, we've been updating the website fast and furious with all of this new guidance. And then we're going to expect to put out more as we get into the sunset. So if you haven't already seen the first two bullets or didn't know about them, just make sure you get in our emails. I wanted to put a little note that the newsletter is important, be part of the newsletter, but also if you're not getting our emails, let us know, because it may be that you're not a primary contact, but you're not also a secondary contact. There may be some reasons, but if you're watching this video and you said to yourself, I didn't know anything about that expenditure deadline, or I didn't know anything about the seat purchase arrangements, it's probably because you may not be getting our emails, because we're also announcing this to our grantees via email. We're really trying to do sort of a communications blitz with all of this. So let us know and we can add you to contact lists. Okay, the first principle we're going to be talking about as we get into the sunset guidance is candidates come first. And yes, they've climbed up this hill, and they're now surveying the wonderful work they've done in their initial certification or getting their additional endorsements, and they're feeling like absolute winners. We want to keep your candidates being the winners of this whole program, because indeed they are. So the first thing that we are advising, again, and by the way, just before I forget to say that, you actually saw on the opening slide, these are best practices. None of this is the MD telling you what to do. This is our best thoughts. And I will tell you also, a lot of these thoughts have been gathered by the suggestions from other grantees. And as State Department folks, we go, man, that's a great idea. We want other people to do this too. So we think that gathering this up is a good idea. One of the things that can really have your candidates come first to make sure that their needs are taken care of is you got to talk to them. You got to have consultations with your candidates. And we heard another grantee have a plan. They said, we have completion plans in place. We have written records that confirms like the estimated date of completion for initial certification or additional endorsement. We have a plan of what course we're still ahead and when this can be completed. And we also talked about what might be an obstacle or a difficulty or a stopper toward completion. So it's important not just to sort of wind up your candidates and let them go, right? You got to really check in with them, and then you've got to talk with them through their experience so they understand what might waylay them. We've heard from a lot of grantees that we said, well, we had 10 people start the program and only 7 people completed, and we're always asking, well, our thoughts are always, well, what happened to the other 3, and can we remove any obstacles? We've had conversations with grantees where they told us the obstacles, and we said, "Oh my goodness, we wish you had told us this before because we have these other options." So definitely consult with your candidates. Find ways to provide extra support. This is about celebrating the wins, but it's also getting those people to their final destination, which ultimately is to help you solve your staffing problems. Remember, this grant is all about helping a district solve their staffing problems. So why wouldn't you want to help them get to that end? And then celebrate the wins. I mean, these are people. We're people, right? So like these are people that felt the need, felt the call to, yes, help a district resolve its staffing problems, but these are people that wanted to step up and serve kids in classrooms. And so that really is something that needs to be celebrated at all times. Not for nothing, May is Teacher Appreciation Month. So it's kind of like well timed because May was just this past month, but I'm like, isn't every month Teacher Appreciation Month? Well, let's appreciate all of these wonderful GYO candidates, that did all this hard work. So when you do a consultation with your candidates, you're also going to be talking about where they are in their coursework and their experience, right? And that could be clinical experience as well, but we're really talking about like they of course you've entered in these partnerships with college universities or alternate route programs or maybe even out of state provider. You've entered into these partnerships, and that is also not a thing we just want you to wind up and let go. We want you to have consultations with EPPs as well. In fact, I will tell you, the team has seen that the most successful districts are those that kept a close working relationship with EPPs. And it wasn't just to get the MOU out the door, right? The MOU put in brass tacks what the relationship was to support the candidate during the grant. But we've heard from people at the EPPs that said, we have never worked with K-12 grantees or districts this closely, and really that's why it's successful, y'all. So that's one of the successes. So make sure you continue to stay in touch with your partnering EPPs, even if there's new updates, especially if there's new updates, because sometimes we find that EPPs are hearing things kind of downstream. We talk to you most directly, but we put up some information on like the DARTEP, listserv and things like that, but not always. EPPs are busy. We're all busy people, so help them understand what's going on. The real concept here is no surprises. Make the most of your investment, but have no surprises at the end, right? You should be able to plot a chart, plot a pathway forward for every grant, every candidate, up to 9/30, up to 12/31, and then beyond. So we're saying that some best practice, some suggestions we have are review your current MOUs and make sure that that's all still valid, that the support you agreed to in the first place, and that they agreed to is still in place through the end of the grant period. Looking beyond the grant period, consider post-grant partnerships and or ongoing support areas. Again, make the most of your investment. Y'all have done this much work. You all have formed these partnerships. Keep it going. I have my personal story is having been supported and this is well before the grant. This is many, many years ago. I was personally supported by a college in Grand Rapids that entered into a 50% discount agreement with my school district. And then they also they ruggedly supported my ability to get an ESL endorsement. Without that kind of partnership, I don't know that I would have been as successful as a teacher at the time. So we love seeing those kinds of partnerships and consider it even beyond the scope of the grant. And then we said earlier in the previous slide, I said, make sure you're talking to your candidates about where they are in their coursework. You also need to do the same thing with the EPPs to make sure that those candidates are supported. That could be tutoring, that could be NTTC testing, that could be a lot of different things, but make sure that to the extent possible, obstacles are removed from their experience. So that is a good, I think we think that's a good container for maintaining support for your candidates. And then Another area of suggestions we came up with is, we thought about that pledge. We had asked, districts, we had required them to enter into a pledge with their candidates. This was actually part of statute. And again, like the whole point of this grant was to meet your district staffing needs, but we knew that had to be done through a handshake, right, between you and your own employee, and then you and the EPP, right? So there's a couple of organizing principles here at work. You're going to have folks, and we've heard this through the life of the grant. You're going to have folks that just aren't going to be able to finish their pathway before the end of the grant. Even with seat purchases allowability in place, you may have some people that aren't able to finish. The reason they're not able to finish could be one of many, many reasons, right? It could be even personal or medical or something like that. There's a lot of reasons. So this grant wasn't meant to be something where it's like a punishment carrot stick thing. This was meant to, again, to meet your district staffing needs by giving you one more of many opportunities to do that. And this is something where we granted you basically seed money to roll out your own GYO program, right? But why would you want to you wouldn't want to punish somebody for participating. We're just asking the best practices to hold them harmless. And then like confirm with HR where they are. There might be some candidates who like didn't uphold their good faith effort to finish, but we think that's a very small percentage. I think people who get into this kind of thing, they really are trying to do their best, and like some stuff waylays them, which is why it's important to really have those consultations to remove obstacles to the extent possible. But one thing that we wanted to make clear, and this is, we got to talk a little carefully, right? Because we're a state agency. We don't tell you how to do your business, right? But there's nothing in GYO statute or existing guidance that really says like you have to recapture money from candidates or punish them in some way. That could be your own district policy, and that's fine, but it's not mandated by MDE. So in the wake of some of the issues and things like that, in the wake, and maybe in looking ahead to the sunset, but also with the spirit of continuing to support them into the future, consider updating a policy like that. Also consider updating that policy because now we have the seat purchases, but we also have the expenditure deadline change, and were unexpected. We did not expect the expenditure deadline to change, but we also really fought for the seat purchase allowability, even when we were told other things couldn't be done. So now we're hoping that we got a system that works for everybody. So you really don't need to kind of like, have reprisal or punishment on somebody who didn't make it work. There's a lot of reasons it couldn't work. But again, let's have candidates come first with all that. And another good suggestion we got from another grantee about this is, they said, well, we looked at the pledge and we wanted to make sure that they were still doing in good faith what they were supposed to be doing. And we looked at what we were doing and how much support we gave. And the best way we thought we could have that consultation was an exit interview, right? Now, the exit interview is kind of a bad name because it could be people who are still in the program and they're not exiting, but the exit interview idea is exiting from the grant, right? So conduct those exit interviews with candidates, people who left the program. You're still going to want to know why they left, right? That's still feedback that you can use. You might even do a survey, right? Or you can do anecdotes, but that's still something you're going to want to know. People who are still in the program, what do they need? What's their experience? And then people who completed the program, again, like, yes, it wasn't just a fun thing you did that one time. Definitely talk to them and say, hey, maybe they can give you a quote or an anecdote. We actually had a district that did a bunch of beautiful graphic design and of some pamphlets with quotes from their candidates about how successful they felt and how supported they felt. So, I mean, that's really good stuff for your district. You're going to want to capture that. So, all right, so that's the candidates come first suggestions from us. Again, these are suggestions and best practices, and we're gathering some ideas from others. But we thought to ourselves, man, these are really good ideas, and why not? All right, so I'm going to turn this over to Jenny. Jenny, the next session here is leave nothing financial to chance. And that a lot of questions we've had coming in are the money stuff. People are talking about the money stuff. So I'm going to hand this over to you and you can talk a little bit about the money stuff.
Thanks, Phil.
You
So
bet.
leaving nothing financial to chance. Now is the time, in the midst of this breakneck speed towards the end of the grant, to take a pause and to focus on intentionality. So you see these three rocks balanced here. Let's take a moment to carefully make sure that everything is stacked up and all the details are tied up. And some ways that we can make that happen is through what we're calling a record keeping roll call. Record keeping around your candidates, around your HR information, around your invoicing. Specifically for the candidates, y'all have been submitting PIC reports on your candidates throughout this process. Now is the time to check every data point for every candidate. This can happen during those consultations with your candidates as you're talking to them. Make sure that what you have on record for them lines up with what they understand about their program and where they're at. So everything that you've reported to us should match those records. Now it's time to tidy things up and to clean things up a little bit. So make sure those pics are updated, make sure those projected timelines are updated as well. Make sure that their placements are also updated. Where are they serving? What is their status? Have they exited? Are they hired? What does that look like right now? And you're also going to want to make sure that those expenditure reports or that those expenditure records match up to what you've drawn down on Nexus. It's best practice to make sure you draw down as soon as possible after you've made those expenditures. We'll talk about that again a little bit later. And we want to make sure that for every expenditure, you've kept some kind of record or documentation, some receipt of that expenditure. So if you need to get receipts from your candidates, again, now is a great time to make sure that you do that prior to requesting reimbursements there. As for records, you're going to want to update your contact information and make sure that you get the HR information updated as well. So where are they placed? Where are they serving? You have given us some picks, but we also need to make sure that we triangulate. There's some information that those picks can't provide for us. That's where we're leaning on y'all, and that does come up through the reporting, but also you should be maintaining those records yourself as well. And then for those payment and invoicing aspects. We got a great idea brought to us from one of our grantees with the shift in the federal expenditure deadline. That might shift things for your candidates as well, and for you in terms of getting your documentation and your ducks in a row. Something you might want to consider is a deadline disclaimer, is what we're kind of calling it, to notify your candidates and possibly the EPPs too, that no invoice, no expenditure past September 30th will be allowable. So let folks know now, making sure it's a shared understanding so that if a candidate brings you an invoice for something that they paid for in October, we're sorry that's not allowed. That's not something that you're necessarily going to be able to reimburse, and certainly not through these Grow Your Own grant funds. So making sure that everybody has a shared understanding now is a best practice, and that can be done through, for example, a deadline disclaimer, some outreach towards your partners and your candidates. So we've been talking a lot about September 30th. We want to talk about how we're going to bridge ourselves there. So first of all, we need to think about what that shifted deadline might mean for you. It might mean nothing for you, but it might mean something. So predict those implications of that policy change to accommodate that shift in the timeline. So what does that look like? That might mean that you need to make sure that you're sooner rather than later catching up on your drawdowns, reimbursement requests on Nexus. Some grantees don't realize that you can request your reimbursement or your drawdowns slightly in advance as practical. So as long as you're within the same expenditure reporting window, so between expenditure reports, it's all right if your invoice follows your drawdown. So if your drawdown comes down just ahead of your invoice, we know that that's going to even out. So that can save time when we're up against that 9:30 hard cutoff. You can pre-plan for those expected expenditures. This is not, to be clear, this is not a prepayment situation. It's just wanting to make sure that things are all tied up. So if you draw down after you receive the invoice, also we want to make sure that you are drawing down as soon as possible after you liquidate that expenditure. Again, we're going to use the word liquidate a lot because we want to make sure that things are off the books. So it's always best practice to draw down as soon as possible after your expenditure. But it's especially important now because that protects your funds that have not yet been drawn down or allocated to you, since it cannot then be pulled back by some other mechanism. It won't look like it's being underspent. So we do encourage you to draw down as soon as possible, as soon as you have incurred that expense, as soon as you've liquidated that expense. So the end of the expenditure period also means the end of reallocations to candidates. So that's present in Appendix C. And what we mean by that is we've allowed you to reallocate funds if a candidate leaves the program, or if you find that you have underspending that you could allocate to a new candidate. Remember that after September 30th, that is no longer allowable. Once you have reached that end of that expenditure period, there is no more reallocation allowed. This is wrap-up time. So in previous guidance, we said that you could do with that money, do what you can with that money for as many candidates as you can, even if they can't finish, since every little bit helps. And we do still stand by that. But again, it's time to be very careful about that decision making. Think about your staffing needs first. Remember, staffing needs is the whole impetus for this grant. So think about your staffing needs first, and then consider who your remaining candidates are, what money they need, and make sure that everything is agreed to, invoiced, and paid up by September 30th. So again, that expenditure shift was unexpected for our team as well, but we want to make sure that you are aware, that everybody is aware, we have that shared understanding, so that nobody is caught unawares after September 30th. So do your best. Missed invoice submissions, that is possible, and I'm sure that's going to happen somewhere. So plan for that possibility. That is going to be a matter of local district policy. We are not going to be able to help you there. So don't request MDE to enforce or grant any additional time. We simply do not have that ability. We cannot accommodate those requests. So that's going to be a matter of local policy, and that's something that you might want to think about developing now. And again, work with those EPPs to arrange for those payments well ahead of September, so that you don't run into that issue as much. So for those of you who are directly paying EPPs, again, now is the time for you to ensure that they are going to be able to get you that invoice, and so that you're going to be able to get that payment off your books before the end of September 30th. We apparently cannot emphasize enough how much of a hard close September 30th is. So again, liquidation. Liquidation is that watchword. I feel like I need to get a September 30th bumper for my car.
Or a tattoo on your arm or something.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, so liquidation again is that watchword. So it needs to be off the books. You need to have paid for it. It is liquidated funds. There is absolutely no expenditures allowed once those final expenditure reports are going to open on October 1st. Those are going to open for everybody on October 1st. We all have the same timeline. Expenditures after that September 30th date will be considered unallowable. They do not exist as far as GYO Section 27B funds are concerned. So you must show those payments, make sure those receipts show payment on or before September 30th. So again, it's wrap-up mode only is what we're calling it. There's no new movement, decisions, or promises of grow your own money. You need to just wrap things up, tie things up in a nice little bow. So what should you be doing now between now and December 31st? It's going to be supporting the candidates to the maximum completion possible. How about between October 1st and the FIR deadline, which is going to be November 29th. We'll get to that in a second. You're going to be preparing for that FIR. Again, you're going to want to make sure that all your receipts are in order, no new expenditures. So one example of something that will have to unfortunately cease after September 30th is substitute teacher costs. So plan for that now. So folks who might be completing student teaching or need to leave class or their positions to attend class, unfortunately, Grow Your Own Funds will not be able to pay for those substitute teacher costs after September 30th. So start making a plan now for how you're going to make sure that those candidates can still continue their process or their program. Folks are going to have to get a little bit creative, but we're trying to give you as big of a heads up as possible so that you can accommodate those changes. So planning now for final reporting. We're looking into the sunset now. It's coming fast and furious. We've got a direct view, and we want to make sure that we are transparent with one another. We've got those windows as a metaphor there. So let's talk about what that looks like for you and for us, specifically this summer. So those of you who are familiar with the monitoring and guidance document, which hopefully all of you are, again, that is available, that the latest version is available on the website. If you take a look at pages 10 and 11, that is where you're going to find that reporting calendar. There are going to be 4 big things that we want you to keep in mind for this summer. So those 4 things are that budget report in Nexus, which is due on the 23rd, the expenditure reports in Nexus, which are due on July 23rd, the summer Grow Your Own Performance Report, again, due due July 23rd, and then the final pick report, which will be due September 30th. Man, that day keeps coming up. Those 4 pieces are what you're going to need to focus on in terms of communication with us, reporting with us. None of those is new. This is going to be the same thing as y'all have been reporting before. But again, this is going to be the last cycle of those reports. Some of you will be celebrating. Some of you will be so sad to stop sending us those reports. But those should be on your minds for now. So again, we will be distributing the performance report via Qualtrics. The others are in Nexus, but for the Qualtrics, keep in mind that performance report is not the same thing as the FIR. This is the same performance report as y'all have been submitting for the past couple of years. We will say that the biggest delay in getting timely responses is the failure of Qualtrics to deliver its message to the unique link to our primary contact's email. So if your primary contact, maybe that's you, maybe that's somebody on your team, is getting MDE emails, then you should also be getting Qualtrics links, even if they land in your spam or junk folders. So make sure to check those folders in case if something comes up, we can help you walk through that, but that's going to be your first step. Who's your primary contact? What does their spam folder look like? Go find that Qualtrics link there, because it is a wily little link. Sometimes likes to wiggle its way into the spam folder. Right. So we mentioned the final expenditure report, the FIR. That is a new report that you're going to be doing that's going to open on October 1st, and that'll be due on November 29th. We have created a new technical assistance resource for the Grow Your Own website for a walkthrough of the FIR. Again, this and other resources are available on the website. So if you need a reminder or refresher on the budget, how budget reporting works, or expenditure reporting, go to our website. We have walkthroughs, we have PDFs, we have videos for that. So this is another resource to be added to that collection. It's available on the website right now. You can review it for the FIR requirements, and you can sort of take a sneak peek of what that Nexus screen is going to look like. Many of you might already be familiar with how FIRs look. This one might look a little bit different, and we'll walk you through with that document. We'll walk you through what those screens will look like. So it's going to ask you for totals for each Grow Your Own function code. This is not going to be pre-populated, just a little peek, but it won't be pre-populated. And so we're going to give you specific instructions and details about how that will work for you. So you're going to have 90 days to submit that. So again, it's due on, no, not 90 days, 60 days. It's due on the 29th of November. And that's a hard deadline. So just make sure that you're preparing for that. And again, that's why we were asking you to leave nothing financial to chance. Start tying things up now, keep things tidy and orderly, and that first should not be a huge problem. Yep. And this last one, again, it's a best practice. It's not a requirement, but it's a great opportunity. So internal reporting, take a look at your own programs. You've designed incredible programs. You have put so much time and effort into designing these programs to support your staffing. So now is a chance for you to get that sort of maximum value out of that program by having those conversations with stakeholders, with your EPPs, with your candidates, with your administration, with whoever has been affected by Grow Your Own. Have a conversation with them. Collect some data, collect some anecdotes. How has this impacted your students? Because ultimately that's the point of this, is let's get that staffing. Let's get your staffing up. Let's get it robust. Let's get it diversified. Let's strengthen that staffing to support your students. So what does that look like for your district? Consider creating your own candidate surveys, publishing those results, presenting it at a board meeting. There are so many opportunities for you to do something at this point. And again, hopefully this isn't the end of the line for most folks. This is just a checkpoint in the middle of the evolution of your Grow Your Own program. So these funds might be ending, these particular ones, but your Grow Your Own program hopefully will continue to thrive and build your staff. So with that, I'm going to pass it back to Phil and help us understand how folks can communicate with us and get support that they need.
And that's some of our funnest work, Jenny, is honestly, we are a small team, but we do love supporting our grantees and making sure that they're as successful as possible, because you are the supports for the individual teachers. And so if we support you, then you support the teachers, and it's all good. In fact, I will tell you, if you get lost in the wilderness, come sit at our campfire. We'll give you some good advice and sometimes a soothing word. We'll get through it together, you know? So Ask the GYO team is really important more than ever. We've tried to make ourselves very available as possible on email. And even though it's not listed here, you know that we have the Ed Workforce Grants email. But what we've done here is we're for the sunset guidance is we're trying to do a little extra level of customer service. So we've updated some resources on the GYO School Staff website. We've also at the time you're going to see this video, we'll have updated our FAQs to accommodate some new questions that were coming from grantees about a couple of the details that we talked about earlier on some of that new guidance. So FAQs will be updated, and then Jenny, when we get messages in from grantees, I can't tell you how many times I'm directing people to the grant administration resources section on our website. I would say it's a read this first, right? Read it first. There's new resources there. Some people said, oh, you put that on the website? We sure did. We actually are trying to do that more openly. So again, like we love to help grantees, just check FAQs in the grant administration resources section before you email us. And once again, I put the QR code there up on your screen in case you want to access the website. So the school staff website is, again, your first place you should land, and then ask us if you've got something specific. However, if you've got something specific, well, we do have some hotlines. So we do have some ways for us to help you disentangle something that might be thorny, even after you've looked at the FAQs and the resources and you still need help. So we've got, again, I mentioned this at the beginning of the video, but we're rolling out office hours for June. And again, by the time you see this video, I don't know if you'll be able to access the link, but we're hoping that you'll see the email that gets sent out. So again, like Jenny said, if you're not getting emails, look at you got to figure out who your primary contact is. And if they're not getting our emails, well, that's a problem. But the office hours for June should be posted. The registration links are currently on the website. And again, we've got two 90-minute sessions for each EPPs and for grantees. And if you're seeing this video and you're lining up either a meeting with us or your office hours, send us your questions ahead of time. It's actually really helpful for our staff to read your questions ahead of time, because there may be an FAQ we can draw out, or we can draw from somebody else's experience to tell you exactly how to handle something. So it's always good. We sometimes get requests of like, hey, can you give us a call, or can we set up a meeting? And again, we love to talk to people. We're extroverted ourselves. However, we always ask you to send us the question first so that we can prepare the answer we know you're looking for. So toward that end, though, we're going to roll out something special. If you email the MDE-Ed Workforce Grants at michigan.gov email address, and you put GYO Closeout in the subject line, we're gonna prioritize those, because we know that you might have some burning questions that are kind of time sensitive, right? So again, remember, we're a small team. We can't often make phone calls, but if you use this method, we think we can prioritize your question. We can schedule virtual meetings for very thorny issues. Sometimes we have scheduled them because we look at somebody's question, we go, ooh, we better talk them through a thing, because we'd have to ask questions in real time, right? That's rare, but if you have a thorny issue and you've got something that's just you can't resolve on your own, even after watching this video and the FAQs and the grant administration resources, send us a message that says GYO Closeout in the subject line, and we will prioritize a response. So again, those office hours, if you can join the office hours, those are great, because grantees, again, like I said before, there's some grantees that like to listen to the questions of others, and then they go, I didn't have to ask a question because somebody else asked it for me. So we really want to encourage you to have you, and again, we have capacity for many people, so it doesn't have to be just your primary contact. You can have other staff members. We've had grantees who get on office hours and they invite like their financial person, so that it's easier for them to translate to financial speak what needs to happen, right? So then the financial person can go, oh, now I understand like what grant code this is, or what function code a thing is. So, consider that for office hours, but in the meantime, we are here to help you. So the last principle here we think would be a really good way to end the experience overall as you get toward the end of the grant and then before the holidays hit, reflect on lessons learned. Often a reflection can lead to a new idea. So that's why there's like a reflection in the light bulb imagery here. And I had a good time finding these photos because we want to have the visual imprint of this, but our ideas, both as a team here at MDE, as well as yours for how to support your candidates and how to get your staffing issues resolved, can come from careful reflection. So we've got a few suggestions for you. Good. Again, best practices. We're not telling you to do this, but it's a good idea, especially in the spirit of getting the most out of the investment you make, getting the most out of this grant. Yes, it was grant money from state and federal dollars, but what did you grow? Like that's the whole idea about growing your own, right? So let's cultivate what you've grown, right? So one of the ways we think this is going to happen the best is communicate, communicate, communicate. Again, getting the most out of your GYO program by telling those stories of GYO's the Grow Your Own program's positive impact. And if you've got candidates whose lives have literally been changed, right, because they've gotten new endorsements to their teaching, and they can now teach different things in your school, or they've gotten their initial certification, and they were somebody who wasn't a teacher before but had a dream, and you've cultivated this dream, right? Let's publicize how their lives have been positively changed. We actually had this was another like exciting idea from another grantee who said, well, what we did was we did what's called the GYO Pathway Completer Spotlight, and we have an area reserved in like the teacher lounge where we actually say these are our GYO candidates, and then they posted like, now this person teaches science, right? This is a person who was a paraprofessional, and now look what they've been. So they actually had a specific area that they were spotlighting these people, right? A similar idea is another grantee, a large school district, a large city school district in Michigan, recently did a whole video where they spotlighted. They went from different teachers and they actually spotlighted them and asked them quite like they did kind of an interview, right? I mean, they took a videography company and did this. I mean, like, right? Like that's really great. This kind of thing can really look great for you. It's great PR, but it's also a testament to how hard you work and how hard the candidates have worked. So another thing we thought of here is what's next for candidates. Consider like now that they've been through an experience, you're going to want to leverage that and get and have them be mentors for other staff members who may want to do something similar, GYO or no GYO. Remember, we talked about the partnerships you might have with EPPs. You might have somebody that came out of the GYO program and said, hey, this is how you do it. This is how I became a teacher. This is how it worked for me. And they could mentor others who want to also reach an additional endorsement or initial certification. So, if that can happen, we would love it. In fact, we love it so much, we'd like you to send us your stories. We actually have collected some positive media already, and boy, it's great. I mean, our leadership loves it. So, well, who doesn't, right? I mean, these are positive stories. We should tell them wide. But I mean, I got to tell you, the legislature saw fit to include an FY26 allocation for GYO, but they won't do that if we don't communicate the success of this, right? So this isn't just for us, right? It's for the good of the entire teaching community here in Michigan. So we want, as MD employees, we want to see this continued, and one of the ways is by sharing those wonderful positive stories of impact. All right. Another thing that we thought was kind of a good idea. This is again another thing we kind of got from other grantees was look at what you said you were going to do with the GYO program, like at the time of application, and look how it came out. Some goals you put were probably met, and then some you blew the doors off of. Some were not met, and why. Like maybe there were some changing things. We actually had counsel. This is actually kind of a fun story. We actually had counseled at least one grantee through their own nervousness about their changing goals because their enrollment changed. They actually had an influx of ESL students. And they said, well, can we reallocate? And they were kind of like, this is a couple of years ago. They're kind of nervous to tell us. We're like, no, you can. You can roll with that. Really? Okay. So we want to know how the changing nature of your enrollment or conditions affected how your district administered the grant, because that information also helps us plan better for future grants. And of course, we have the FY26 GYO now to think about. So those are stories you can share with us. But also, when you do that internal reporting, think about, all right, so now what do we know about our enrollment and what do we know about our staffing needs? And how can we like prepare for change? Because that's a lot of what leaders have to do, right? We have to prepare for change. And then, like, this is a good question. Like, what would you tell your past selves now that that would have affected how you applied for GYO funds and or budgeted them, right? So this is kind of like relevant because we're also looking at underspending, and so a lot of districts had said, we asked for a lot of money, but now we didn't spend it." We want to know why. We want to know, like, hey, because that money could have been used for other things, but also, what did you want to do that you didn't do? So those are our good reflections. It's always good organizationally. And another one we thought of at the very end was, would you do it all over again if you could? More importantly, did you apply for FY26, right? So would you do it again? Right? We want to know that because that gives us an idea, because our team is not in schools, you are, right? So you can tell us, hey, this is a good thing, or I would do something else. So the real thing, again, going back to the main idea of the GYO grant, is again, it's to assess, it's the did it go toward your staffing needs that you had, because that was really an organizing principle, the entire grant. So, but remember that although GYO isn't the only solution to a district staffing challenges or like teacher shortage, we hope the program at least made a positive impact, and then you can use what you apply, you can apply what you've learned to better inform future staffing strategies, right? So what differences does the GYO grant make? And then, if the legislature does make more available beyond FY26, what would you want out of that grant? How would you prepare to apply for it? And then if you have unmet needs, like, let us know, because, and we're the office that talks to teachers the most, right? Literally, like through their certification work, but also now we're talking to grantee districts. So we really will bring this information forward for the benefit of all. So by doing some of those reflections, you can really get what you want out of this grant at the end. And remember, you didn't just manage this grant, right? You built a pathway to grow your workforce. The pathway isn't just that cool thing you did that one time, right? This is something that you now have set down in your district that can lead toward a revitalization of your staffing. So we want you to think about the longevity, even though, yes, you've come a far way. You've come all this way. You're at the top of the hill now, surveying the distance. And we thank you, but want to remind you, look how far you came. There's still pathway ahead. And what that is up to you. So from all of us here at the MD, especially our team, we want to thank you for all of your hard work. And Jenny, I'll let you take it home with a closing thought.
Thanks, Phil. Again, we aren't doing this, you are. We are here to help you, to empower your staff, so that we can ultimately support your students. So in as much as we can, we're here to help. We're here to help look back. We're here to help you look forward. And we want to hear from you. So please don't hesitate to reach out to us, MDE-edworkforcegrants@michigan.gov. Again, I'm Jenny. This has been Phil. It's been a pleasure.
All right. Thanks a lot.